faces. Some of the best faces he had was the face of one of the most globally adored entertainers. He had the face of one of the greatest philanthropists of all time. And he had a face that could smile even in the midst of great criticism. No one had as many faces as the king himself, Michael Jackson. Unlike many artists out there, the king was a true artist. The kind of artist that could sit down and write his own music, unlike those who just perform the ones that are handed over to him. The Songwriters Hall of Fame website has a list of the timeless classics the king himself wrote. Classics like Beat It, Billie Jean, Bad, and Thriller. His recognizable dance style had a smooth rhythm and soul that came naturally to him. He had a flair to his dance style, whether it was an on-cue crotch grab or the moonwalk. He also made the robot the cool dance that it was. Before he was a solo artist, the king was in a very successful group known as the Jackson 5. He became a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame double inductee, once with the group and once as a solo artist. These honors are found at the Rock Hall website. At only 6 years old, he began his journey into the showbiz. His father led the group in an aggressive way, which led them to their success, but at personal cost, missing out on a normal childhood. And so began his one-way trip to adulthood and glory. But for all his glory, the king still deserves a tribute, not for how great of an entertainer he was, but for his loving ways and humanitarian efforts. He advocated everything, from animal rights to the environment to world peace. Like many of the great kings in history, he used his talents as a power for the good of the people. In doing so, he wore the face of one of the greatest philanthropists of all time. He was placed in the Guinness World Record for being the celebrity who supported the most charities. He supported over 70 charities and donated over $500 million. This doesn't include the kind of tangible donations he made, like airlifting 42 tons of supplies during the Bosnian War and equipping a 19-bed burn unit at a hospital that he stayed at after suffering his own severe burns. He has a Michael Jackson Generous Legacy page devoted to this type of generosity. Some of his most famous charities are the Heal the World and We Are the World foundations. But he didn't just throw money at these causes, he also donated his time because he truly cared. He also made the Guinness Book for having the most #1 hits in a decade, the most awards won by a single artist. The full list of his accomplishments go on and can be found at the Guinness Book website. The king was known to have had many faces, and one of the faces he had was one that persevered in times of adversity. His strict religious upbringing dictated his life to the point that it interfered with his creative processes. Themes for Thriller and Smooth Criminal disturbed his church so much they presented him with an ultimatum: choose church or music. Although he was hurt with the ultimatum, he remained faithful to his own religion in his own way. When he became rich enough, no price was too high for him to try to relive the childhood he missed out on. Every kid's dream was to have their own theme park in their backyard. The king made this his reality. He bought toys he could never play with, and he played games he never had the time to. He was a kid trapped in a man's body. Sadly, this kid-like behavior, goodwill, massive fortune, and scrutinized physical appearances made him an easy target for extortion plots. Accusation and courtroom battles went on for years, and although eventually he was acquitted, the emotional damage was done. It makes me sad to know that he probably carried this sadness to the day he died. But despite the adversities, he continued to love, smile, and forgive. He would say, "I will never stop loving and helping people the way Jesus told me to." So long live this type of king. For all his causes and beliefs, to the very life he led, he was an inspiration. He was an inspiration to better ourselves, an inspiration to love and to forgive. He had more talent in his little finger than entire record labels had on staff. His joyous attitude was infectious, and so was the appreciation of the little things. Nobody has ever embodied all of these things with such grace than the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson. Thank you. Thank you. Don't forget yourself.